today, I wish I got that. I don't know if I got that. So today we are 2 weeks postpartum. Bubby's 2 weeks old and it's been a hectic day. For months now, pregnancy updates and everything have been on a Saturday, but then he was born on a Tuesday, so now it's just throwing off everything for me. Like, I just haven't gotten in my head Tuesday is the start of our week. This past week I have continued to get pain down there. I felt pretty good in general, exhausted obviously, but fairly good in general. The only pains I was really getting was these like stabbing pains in my like abdomen, but they felt like extreme constipation pains, but I wasn't constipated. So, but you can be like going to the toilet and still be constipated, so I thought maybe that was it. Yeah, I was still getting burning when I went to go to the toilet. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I was having to pee in the bath, which is really gross for me. I can't remember, but there was a point where I couldn't use the bath, so I finally had to toughen up, brave it, and use the toilet again, and it didn't hurt as bad. Still hurting heaps and still stinging heaps, but I've been able to use the toilet most of the time since then. It feels like acid in cuts. It felt really swollen down there. It just felt swollen to me. It wasn't actually swollen to touch or anything. The pain hadn't gone away, and it was actually sort of progressively getting worse. I have trouble sitting, especially if I've just gone to the toilet. I like can't sit down. It wasn't until it started to get itchy that I got fed up, because like I can deal with pain, but I hate itchiness. That was when I booked in a doctor's appointment. I vaguely remember when I was little, I got a little bit of thrush, and my mum said that she got thrush, I think after having me. And so she knew what it was and told me about it, and we went and got stuff for it and stuff like that when I was like younger. So I thought maybe if it wasn't the scabs healing and just causing itchiness, it might have been thrush, because it could have been. And I just wanted to know what I could do to deal with the pain and itchiness until it healed. So I booked an appointment with my GP. I've literally had her through my entire, like before my pregnancy when I was dealing with infertility. Not that we were trying to get pregnant, but I was dealing with irregular periods and stuff, and then I got pregnant accidentally, and she dealt with me for that, and then she dealt with me all throughout my pregnancy, and like now she's seen Bub and everything because she won't be around for Bub's 6-week checkup, which is really sad because I really like her as a GP. Yeah, I went and saw my GP. She did a speculum exam just to check everything, which was uncomfortable, but not as bad as pap smear. And she basically said, yeah, there is like, she can see some sort of infection coming from my cervix. That meant I had to go get an ultrasound to make sure there wasn't any placenta left in. But anyway, this was the day, during the day in the life video. Set me for an ultrasound to check for like if there was any placenta left in my uterus. Went for my ultrasound that afternoon, and I didn't have any hemorrhaging or anything, so I didn't think anything of it, and booked an appointment back with my GP on Monday, because this was on Friday, wasn't it? Monday morning, saw my GP, and she basically said, yes, there is retained product, aka bits of placenta were still stuck to my uterus. Higher risk of me hemorrhaging or bleeding out. Bleeding out, that sounds like dying.
That sounds so scary.
Yeah, but like having a really big loss of blood is like the biggest risk for this, I believe, and then also infection, because it's not meant to be in there and your body is like, yeah. So I was on antibiotics for the infection, but I did need to get the stuff out to avoid the infection getting worse, because obviously it would just continue. My GP referred me on to the obstetricians at the hospital I gave birth at. Later that day, Monday, yesterday, the obstetricians rang me up and basically said that their obstetrician is covering another obstetrician on leave, so he cannot fit me in soon enough, and that I had to present to ED. I was breastfeeding Hayden, so I had to take him into the emergency, and there was so many sick people, and he's a 2-week-old baby with low, like his immune system doesn't exist yet, and it was just really stressful. Most emergency departments here in WA that I've been to are all like curtained rooms, but they actually got me into like a proper room with walls, and its own separate toilet and everything, I think because they were worried about the risk to Hayden. And they got me in really quickly. Had a cannula, some bloods taken. They basically just booked me in for surgery for a DNC, which is a dilation and curettage. It's like an abortion, which is interesting that I like.
An abortion after
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Both sides.
It's the same process as an abortion, but in this case, they were getting out like the remnants of my pregnancy. They'd go in and scrape out everything in my uterus, go down to the muscle wall and get rid of everything in there, which has risks and stuff, but risks outweigh benefits in this case. I got to go home. I didn't stay in overnight or anything, thank goodness. And then this morning, it's now Tuesday, got up and went to the hospital, and they admitted me. They put me through really quickly because I wasn't urgent. I wasn't an emergency, but I was urgent. And then also because I was breastfeeding, they didn't want me to be separated from bub too long. Basically, they like admitted me into the area where they just get me into my robe and stuff, and I gave Hayden a quick top up with milk. They wheeled me into like the waiting line where you like wait in line for your surgery, and then the anaesthetist comes and talks to you, and the doctor comes and talks to you and double checks that you know what's going on and stuff like that. But the lady one ahead of me in line was having a C-section. One of my midwives from my midwife group practice walked past to go see this C-section lady, and I was like, I swear that's my midwife. And then she introduced herself, and I was like, it is my midwife. But by that point it was like too late to say hi, but she ended up like overhearing one of the doctors say my name and peeked her head around the curtain and was like, oh, hi Storm, how are you going? Why are you about to get a surgery? That was good. I got to catch up with her, and she wasn't my primary midwife, but during my labor my primary midwife couldn't make it, so I ended up with her as like my secondary midwife for the start of my labor. Obviously my labor went so long she couldn't stay either, but whatever. So yeah, then I got taken into my DNC. They put a cannula in my arm and yeah, checked my blood pressure, gave me oxygen, and then they put the drip in my arm, which felt, I remember it feeling interesting, but now I can't actually remember what the feeling was, if it was cold or painful or stinging or what. I can't remember because I was shortly out after that. I can't even remember counting down at all. Like I can't even remember them asking me to count down. I was just out. Next thing I know, I was really groggy and waking up, and all the previous times I've been under general anesthetic, I've woken up really badly. I've like woken up multiple times and then not been awake properly, and like I really don't like the feeling that I've already been awake and can't remember it. I don't like not remembering. So this time when I woke up, I like forced myself instantly like fully awake as much as I can. So I was then awake, but it did take me a while to wake up. They were quite shocked that they thought I'd be awake when. They told you a time that I'd be out, didn't they? 10, yeah, they thought I'd be awake and like ready to do stuff at 10, and I didn't wake up till 11. You must be exhausted. And I was like, yeah, it's probably got more to do with the 2-week-old downstairs than it has with the general anesthetic. I usually feel nauseous from general anesthetic, and like I usually have a really bad headache and all this stuff. I didn't get any of my usual symptoms, but I think they gave me something different to what they've given me in the past because I was breastfeeding. So I really wish I knew what it was so I can ask for it in the future. So had a drink, had something to eat, went to the toilet. As soon as I did all that, they could then get the cannula out and let me go. We had trouble getting the cannula out. It's like a new brand or something, and they literally couldn't get it out of my arm. And they didn't put the thing that stops the blood from pouring out, so I had to actually put pressure on my vein while she tried to pull it apart. She couldn't pull apart. She called someone with stronger hands.
Did you start bleeding once they took it out?
No, because I was putting pressure on my vein. It wasn't the bit where they're actually taking it out of my arm. They were just like unclipping me so that I could get dressed first, which involved like removing 2 pieces that were stuck together. In the end, they had to come and get like, what are they called? I have prongs in my head. Like the scissor clamp prong things that I literally own in my dissection kit, but whatever, I can't remember the name of them. And like really forcefully get it off, and they finally did. I was checked over and good to go. What happened with Hayden while I was in the surgery was once I got like wheeled off to the actual surgery area, Luke took him. But yeah, Luke had some running around to do. He had to pick up keys for our house. He also had to come back here and pick up the breast milk that I expressed because we forgot it. Luke had to go to work at 1, so my grandparents came up in case, because I'm not allowed to drive after the general. My grandparents came up to drive me home, but I successfully breastfed in public. I breastfed and then we went home, and my grandparents left because Pop's works really early in the morning. I think he starts work at 4, and they had to drive a long way. Yeah, I felt really good after the surgery. They kept asking if I wanted painkillers, and I was like, no, I don't feel pain. Breastfeeding and oxytocin and all the hormones help your uterus to keep contracting after you give birth for a couple of days and shrink it back down to a normal size. Mine didn't do that. It shrunk a little bit, but not much. So they gave me more Pitocin to try and shrink it down. So I should be having contractions, but I'm really not. Being home, I slept for a bit and then started to get a little bit sore in the tummy. And now it's starting to really kick in. I'm still not getting any contraction-y pain, but I am getting a lot more pain down there. So that's my postpartum update. I'll transition into Bub's update. He has had waves of good and bad. Every single time I can't nap when he naps, he decides to nap. But he generally sleeps really well during the day, but then at night time, he doesn't. And the past couple of days he's been getting up about between 12:30 and 2:30. I think one day he stretched it to 3:30. He'll wake up after his 2-3 hour nap. He'll wake up and then he'll be awake until 9 in the morning and completely awake. He's been cluster feeding. He's also been throwing up a bit more, spitting up some of his milk a bit more, but apparently it's completely normal. And the last couple of days he had a bit of diarrhea, but it's been really on and off. But that can be an effect of the antibiotics I'm on. They're completely safe for him. They're actually antibiotics that you give newborns if they need antibiotics. Yeah, he slept really well, and I was like, great. Now he's gonna be wanting to cluster feed and be up all day when I can't be there to feed him, and I was stressing about it. I was super stressed, but no, he slept fine. And he's still sleeping fine. I don't know if he's gonna be really bad tonight, or if he was just going through a growth spurt the last couple of days. And that's why he was cluster feeding so much, but it would be really nice if he kept doing this for a little bit longer. But yeah, so he's done really well the last 24 hours, but before that, he was just, ugh. One thing I found really hard is breastfeeding in public, or needing to feed him when we're out. I actually got stuck at the shops because we were at the shops and he was hungry and we needed to get stuff, but we were ages from home, weren't going home for ages, and he was crying because he was hungry, and I got stuck just in the parents' room nursing him for ages whilst Luke did the shopping. I just had to unlatch him in the end because he could feed for an hour at a time easily and then need feeding within 20 minutes when he's cluster feeding. Sometimes he gets overexcited when he's trying to latch, and he'll get his hands in the way and start sucking on his hands. Sometimes I literally have to get Luke to hold his arms down because I'll be trying to control his head that'll be going the wrong way because he'll be trying to eat his hands, and he'll get his hands in the way, and I have to hold his head with one hand, his arm under my armpit, and then maneuver my boob with my other hand, and then Luke holds the other arm, and he's just gets really overexcited and then really frustrated sometimes, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He's crazy. So obviously trying to do that on my own in public when I can't just get my boob out, I have to be covering baby that's wriggling and then covering myself and trying to peek under the shirt. What else has Hayden done this week? He started being awake more. He's also can see things better. I was sitting on the bed with Hayden and sitting him up sort of thing, and he was looking over towards Mika, and she was like, oh, you're looking at me, and she was sitting 2 meters away. Yeah, she was sitting about 2 meters away on just a chair, and we were can they even see that far? So she literally started moving from side to side, and he was actually tracking her movements. He can move from his back to his side, but he can roll from his stomach to his back. If I put him up on my chest to burp him, and I'm just sort of supporting him but letting him move wherever he wants, he can literally get all the way down and latch on and feed. I've actually just been half zoned out, letting him wriggle just to have belly time, tummy time on my chest, leaning back a bit. And then next thing I know, he's breastfeeding, and I'm okay. But yeah, so Can't tell if that's in focus, but could you say? Oh no, she's good. Oh yes, that is one thing. He's also started getting a nappy rash. The movie stopped recording, so we're taking that as like a sign to shut up. But before we go, little Bub's just asleep. Oh, belly shot. Yeah, I feel like my belly's swollen due to the... I've got to have a cat in the picture.
Due to the surgery?
Due to the surgery, but this is my belly 2 weeks postpartum. I've got like lines back. Yeah, it's still really flubby. Actually, it's gotten... Yeah, it's still like flubby around here and feels really soft and squishy. Right now I'm not going to poke it because I just had surgery around there. But, and it's really sore at the moment. But like it's still really squidgy, but I'm starting to actually feel my organs in my stomach, not like up here still. And yeah. Yeah. That's my belly.
Your belly.
Still look like I'm like first trimester or early second trimester, depends when you start showing, but whatever. Yeah. So I still got the linea nigra.
Oh, what happened to your stomach?
What do you mean?
Come here.
What's wrong with it? Is it like a bruise? Because it feels like a bruise. That's where it really hurts.
Yeah, that's obviously to do the surgery.
Oh, it wasn't like that before? You realise I can't see below here?
No, it was definitely like that.
Oh, okay.
That's definitely
It wasn't like this morning. Okay, well this is from the surgery. This is where it's really painful at the moment. But yeah, okay, well apparently this is new, but I still have the linea nigra.
It's marble, yeah.
Marble floors and
Same white design. I think it's the Jensen dining room. And
Oh, okay.
they changed for bedroom.
Ah, so this is another bedroom?
Yes, it's another master, yeah. With a dressing here.
Oh,
If you want.
okay.
The view, the water. And beautiful view.